Our next guest, Jason Fonger. And Jason, before I give you a chance to talk, let me give you a formal, proper introduction. He is a renowned authority on plant-based eating, passionate educator, popular social media content creator, and elite level triathlete. He adopted a plant-based diet in 2009 to overcome being chronically fatigued. And he believes the best possible time to answer the question, where do you get your protein, is after he wins a race, which makes perfect sense. Jason, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the intro. You can hear me okay?
Okay. I'm all great. I got a simple question. I love your shirt. I think our shirts are matching today. You bet.
Yeah.
So why did you go vegan? Why?
I mean, initially I read the liner notes to an album, one of my favorite punk rock albums by a band called Goldfinger, and the album is called Open Your Eyes. And I didn't realize it, but this band, there are a lot of vegans in the band, and they'd put messages in the liner notes about animal rights and what happens to the animals for food and clothing and entertainment and all that. And so I was sort of just really shocked by that, and I couldn't eat meat for quite some time. So I was vegetarian for a few months, but I sort of struggled with that. Eventually went back to eating meat, and then I just have some health issues. You mentioned I had very sort of chronically fatigued, never actually diagnosed, but just feeling really tired and just not feeling great. I kept getting throat infections, so I ended up going plant-based then a few years later after that for health reasons, in addition to all of those animal rights sort of reasons that were still in my mind and were making me feel uncomfortable. So that's how I got into it. And then as the years went on, I've learned about the environmental benefits and all these other great benefits that everyone's been speaking about. So that's how I got into it initially.
Yeah, you sort of get in for one reason, and the other reasons just come aboard kind of naturally, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we got your motivation for becoming vegan. What's your motivation for becoming a triathlete?
So, I mean, I'd always enjoyed running and biking and swimming as a kid. I mean, just sort of for fun, right? But I mean, I remember back in 2012, I was taking a trip out to Hawaii, and I just so happened to pick this book up, and looking for something to read on the plane, and it was Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, who I'm sure some people are going to be familiar with. And I read that on the plane to Hawaii, and if you read the book, that sort of he did that big five that was in Hawaii, and so it was sort of this synchronicity happening. And I got to Hawaii, and I was like, okay, I'm already biking and running, so I'm going to try to learn this swimming thing. And I went out in the ocean the first day I was on the island of Hawaii, and I got pulled out in a riptide, and it was this like crazy experience where I'm thinking I'm going to die. I'm just getting pulled out from the island. The island's just getting smaller and smaller, and I'm just going out into the ocean. I'm thinking, what's going on here? I'm trying to swim to get back, but nothing's happening. And I felt so helpless. And I just sort of, I had this realization that, okay, hopefully I can get out of this. And if I do, then I want to do something good with my life. And, long story short, I ended up making it out, and getting out of that situation. I already, just because I was reading the book on the plane just the night before, I was thinking, it'd be fun to get into swimming and learn how to swim better. And then that sort of scary experience sort of inspired me to get in the pool and learn how to swim. And ultimately, I wanted to do something with that, which is to, ultimately become a decent athlete and maybe start, doing well in some races and, promote plant-based eating, which is what I'm now doing. So that's sort of how I got into triathlon. And but it was many years before I started competing. At first, I was just doing it for fun, and sort of the benefits came, and I ended up doing well in some races. So,
and I love Rich Roll's. I love Rich Roll's podcast as well. He's a very inspiring person indeed. What about this lifestyle that supports the athletic performance? I know we spoke with Jeremy about the fact that he didn't have a whole food plant-based lifestyle when he was a professional athlete. How does it help you?
I mean, it was just so amazing listening to David speaking a minute ago there, and he touched on so many great things. I mean, for me, I think if we just talk about health, plant-based, whole food, plant-based eating is going to be good for human health, and that's really a baseline for performance. But I mean, one of the great things about plant-based eating is when we talk about whole plant foods that are rich in carbohydrates, like those are really what I find. I mean, I do eat a higher carbohydrate diet, and I know, we don't want, I'm definitely not super restrictive with low fat or low protein or anything like that. But for me, I focus on making sure I'm getting those carbohydrates. David mentioned a lot of athletes are not meeting those carbohydrate needs. So I go by a formula that is 10 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight per day. And that's what I track. And I know that I focus on the whole foods. I know the proteins and fats are going to be packaged into the different foods I'm eating, but as long as I'm hitting those carbohydrate needs, I just find, my recovery, my ability to perform during training is just through the roof. So I feel like that's a huge advantage that I have over other competitors, is just this understanding of carbohydrates and how they help, and not being afraid of eating carbohydrates, which a lot of people seem to be. So I think that's a huge advantage for me.
A lot of people would hear that amount of carbohydrates and they're trying to do the math on Google right now and going, no way can you do it on that much carb. But obviously that is the case. That's exactly how it works, right? So
well, I mean, ask David, but that's as far as I look at reading the literature, that's not an absurd recommendation for high level athletes, is 10 grams or more per kilogram of body weight per day.
I mean, that's an awful lot of carbs a day, but guess what? I think we're all eating that same amount and we're feeling great. So got to be working somehow. And I'm sure your recovery is even better than it ever was before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel just very fresh after, as long as I'm getting those good foods in, it really helps a lot.
One last question. What else is motivating you to continue with this lifestyle?
I mean, I just see so much potential for positive change in the world. It's unfortunately, when we look at a lot of the issues that are happening, a lot of them do come back to our food system and our exploitation of animals. And it's just, for so many different reasons, encouraging people to eat more whole plant foods. It's just a win-win-win. And I mean, I do a lot of work with schools, presenting to, high school students and things like that. And it's just so inspiring to see their reactions to this information. A lot of people are wondering why this information isn't made more readily available. And, it's for me, I'm optimistic because I see a lot of people adopting this way of eating. And I see that there's really a lot of changes happening. The availability of plant-based foods is just getting better and better. There's rising awareness about all this stuff, so I'm optimistic, and I'm just happy to be playing my part in helping to make some changes happen.
And we're real happy to have you as part of the team and helping with the whole food plant-based lifestyle. Jason Fonger, you can reach out to him at jasonfonger.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jim. This is great.